Teach argument writing in upper elementary and middle school, you've probably realized that just putting up some slides up on the screen and giving them an example and then saying, now you do it, doesn't always work. So I do a three-pronged approach to this. I guess it's a prong. I don't know. Paths, strategies, three things. Here we go. Hi, I'm Robin Millum. I'm a children's book author. I am also a middle school instructional coach. And I've taken everything that I've learned from my editors at HarperCollins and Disney and Houghton Mifflin, and I put it basically into a writing program that I created called the Structured Writers Workshop. And the way it's structured is that part of it is 6 high priority writing skills that we do on rotation all year round in a weekly workshop. The rest of the time, we're then doing essays, and we do those in blocks. So that they'll just do 10 days in and out of an essay. So those 10 days are super important because all the skills they've been working on in workshop will now start to apply to their essays. And you have a short amount of time to get them to understand what an argument essay is, what are the components of it, and then to actually do one themselves. It's a difficult task to do. So I tackle this with 3 different, like I said, things. First is I use the constructivist viewpoint of like a pedagogy, and I have another video on this that goes deep dive into constructivist teaching. But instead of me saying, here is the essay part, here's the definition, you read it, I'll read it, you read it. And like I have them construct it themselves. So they get a bunch of strips of paper, they get essays that are all cut up and the headers that go with it. And I'll show it to you. And they work in groups, they pull it all apart and they try and figure out what order does this go in. They're going to reconstruct it. What makes sense? So they're talking through the headings of it, and there's little descriptions of each one. So they're like, well, that wouldn't make sense. You would probably do this one next, and so forth, and see if they can come up with all the parts of an essay in the correct order. And then after that, we kind of move into some digital stuff where I'll show you how we do some brainstorming and how I get them researching. But I think it's really important to combine this with a print activity as well, where they are jotting down their ideas and their notes, and it's much more fluid, and they don't need to worry about, grammar or punctuation or anything. Use a pencil, mark it out, whatever you want to do. And then they have that next to them when they're at their computer writing their final draft. So I'm going to show you all 3 parts of this, and I will take you to my screen. So here we are. We'll start with the slides that I share with them, and we just kind of talk about the fact that you can argue things that are opinions first, because later we're going to get into finding evidence and all of that. But I just start with giving them a car or a truck, and they need to tell me which one makes most sense to buy. And they'll have all these reasons, and this is one of those things they can attack because they kind of know they have at least enough background knowledge to tell you whether a truck would be better than a car and in which situations. So we kind of talk about how argument writing is now your reasons that are backed by facts, and that gives you that evidence. And that's the difference between opinion writing and argument writing, is that you have evidence and it's scientifically backed. Now, from here, I would start, let me scroll down, kind of depends on like what level your kids are at, I would say. Sometimes when my kids just don't have any knowledge really of argument writing, they don't seem to remember any parts of it, I will quickly go through these. They're not paying attention. They're like, yeah, there's a hook. You got to introduce. We're going to do a thesis, a claim, evidence, explanation. We're going to do a counterclaim, a rebuttal, an explanation. You're going to do all these things at the end. They're like, yeah, okay. So I might share that. Some years, though, I skip that and I go straight up to, I want you to figure out what the parts of the essay are. And so these are the ones that I cut up into labels for them. And then it kind of looks like this. And then they get the strips of paper. This was adapted from an 8th grade student. This was his paper that he wrote. And they have to put this all back in order. And then in their groups, it looks like this. So they'll have a manila envelope and it'll have all these strips in there. And you just give them some time to talk about it and see if they can figure out what order it should go in. And then you'll talk about how they are going to now write their own. And I do have some, let me scroll down here to some brainstorming slides that we have here that you could do along with them, where they start writing about things that they care about and picking topics from there. Now, let me get into a little bit about topic choices. There are websites that have, the best argument writing topics for middle school, and there's 35 of them, or there's 350 of them. And I found that limiting their choices really helped, because they will just get the Netflix syndrome when it comes to choosing their topic. They will change topics. They won't be able to settle on one. So if you kind of limit it, that can help with that decision fatigue that they might have. So here I want to show you one thing that I've done in the past. I use Padlet, and what I'll do is I will set up some columns in there with, like, let's say 3, 4 different topics that they could choose from, and I post articles in here for them. Those who are challenged enough to be able to go and find their own article and get approval for it, they can do that. But oftentimes I will give them articles to choose from, so that they're not wasting hours and hours just looking at things that, Twitter not going to work. So I give them reputable research articles to choose. And then they would pick one pro and one con article from that list and put that on their planning sheet. And if you want to do one of these, if you go to Padlet now, if you haven't been there in a while, my gosh, they have so many new amazing things in here that you can do. New. I haven't even looked at any of this stuff, but I'll just show you for this one that I made. Look at this reading log. It's so cute. Okay. I went to blank board here, and then to make it into columns, you choose shelf. So on the bottom right here, it says shelf. And then that way you can name your section and then add in your information from there. So once they've done that, they've picked their topic, they know what their research articles are going to be. Then I have them do some writing on paper. And so you could have them just write down, talk about hook. You'll see examples of hooks in those deconstruct ones, like what makes them good, what did you notice, that kind of stuff, and have them draft it out here on paper. So I make sure it's called a draft. Do it in pencil. And just start jotting down what you think would go in there. This could be a good time where you give approval before they move on to the next part. Maybe they get a stamp for paragraph 1, stamp for paragraph 2, if it looks like they have the parts in there that you're looking for. That way they're not so far down the road in the wrong direction that you're like, whoa, how did you get that far? Stickers help too. So then before they work, you would probably want them to just sit and jot and take down notes. So I always teach them to read an article and then don't look at it and just write down what they remember and jot it down. And then they might do some direct quotes. So you could just add more of these or continue on the back, put their source in there, anything they remember. And then not all of this will end up in their paper. That's the good thing, is to talk about how over research and then pull the things that are most important when you're doing the final part to this. I do have a print version of this as well, but then when they're ready, they can go back to their digital version here. And, you could just have them type straight into a Google slide. You could have them separated out this way if you'd like. Some teachers do it that way, where they give digital stickers. I use Class Kick, so I do that as well. But they could also do the handwriting. They hold it up and they take a picture of it, and it pops right into Class Kick. And so you can put the digital stickers on there as well. Now, when you are going over things like the hook, this is one of the 6 skills that I teach in the writer's workshop. So they've already practiced with this. This is not something new and scary to them. They've done a ton of them at this point. And if you want to know more about that writer's workshop, I'll put some stuff below. You can take a free, module 1 is free, or you can take the full training if you'd like. I'll leave you a link and then you can check that out. But when you're done with argumentative writing, you're going to try and figure out how are you going to grade this and what is it that you are doing the entire time that they are writing and researching. I have another video for you, and I want you to head over to this one, and it'll explain how to do grading, particularly with an argument essay. See you in the next one.